Yo, so patch 1.1 in Wuthering Waves and JINHSI have been out for a few days now, so you know what that means. For those that have been saving for the newest, hottest character, Changli, it's time to take a look at how to pre-farm out this character so that we can have a strong Changli ready to go on day one. So let's get into this thing. Okay, so let's first start off by taking a look at a very important and new item that came out in patch 1.1. This is the Pavo Plum, and you'll need 60 of these to fully level up your Changli. This is a character Ascension item, so you won't be able to level her up unless you have these. And so you can farm these out pretty easily, and most players are going to be level 80 that have been playing since day one by the time she comes out. So you'll probably want to pick up all 60 of these, or at least close to it. And thankfully, it's a very, very easy farm. But if you didn't want to necessarily farm, every single day the shop resets at the pharmacy. And the pharmacy is located in Jinzhou, in case you wanted to go pick those up. You can pick 15 up of those every single day if you wanted to. Or just go here to the Luminous Shore. It is in Mount Firmament. Let's go ahead and take a look at where that is. It is right here, and thankfully, this is, if you might recognize where this is the very starting area of Mount Firmament, where we actually came here with Changli. And along this road right here, you can actually see these on the road. They're just sitting right there on the side of the road. You can go farm these up really, really easily. All right, so the next items that we're going to be taking a look at here are these different rings. Now, with these rings, we're going over just right now over the Ascension materials for the character, just to be able to level the character up. We'll be going over the items you need for the skill tree a little bit later on in the video, and at the end of the video, I'll show a graphic that shows everything you need all in one. The reason why I separate them out is because not every player is going to need all of the different items, so it's a lot easier for every player to digest this way. That's at least what experience I've seen so far. So for these crude rings, you're going to need 4 of the crude rings, and you're going to end up needing 12 of these basic rings, and then you're going to end up needing 12 more of these improved rings, and then you're going to need 4 of these tailored rings. Now, these are items you might actually want to farm out because they drop off of the exiles. They don't drop as often as, let's say, these whispering cores. As you can see, I have like a million of these whispering cores because they drop off of all kinds of stuff, but I don't have that many of these rings because they drop off of these exiles. And these exiles are essentially like the humanoid-looking like bad guy enemies in the world. So you're going to want to go farm those guys out, and you can use the tracking system to go around the map finding them and farming them out. Alright, now the next item you're going to need for the character's Ascension materials are these Rage Tacit cores. Now these drop off of the Inferno Rider, and you can go in Detect System and you can go find him and farm him out pretty easily. This is also coincidentally the echo that you're going to want to use as your main echo for Changli, at least when she drops. There could end up being a new echo in patch 1.2, but we don't know if that's actually going to happen right now, and you'd end up having to wait like 3 weeks of her banner in order to farm that. So it's probably worth farming this out because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. So I would farm out his echo while you farm out these Raging Tacit cores in order to be able to level her up as well. So you'll be able to pre-farm her echo and her level up material at the exact same time. And you're going to end up needing 46 of these Raging Tacit cores in order to fully level up Changli. Now obviously you're going to need some credits in order to fully level up the character, and in order to fully ascend Changli, you're going to need roughly 170,000 credits in order to do so. Now, I've been hearing from a lot of people that they're a bit low on credits right now, and that's probably because they've been leveling up echoes that are either getting replaced or just in general weren't necessarily worth their time. So be careful with your material consumption, guys. Some things are just not necessarily worth the investment if you already know that you're going to end up replacing that stuff really, really soon. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this skill tree. Now we're going to end up needing these rings again, and we'll go over that in just a second. We're also going to need a weekly boss item as well, but first I wanted to take a look at something we're going to have to farm out of the foundry, and that is going to conveniently be this top foundry right here. You're going to end up needing a whole bunch of these items. We're going to end up needing 24 of this inert metallic drop. We're going to end up needing 55 of this reactive metallic drop. We're going to end up needing 25 of the polarized metallic drop. And we're going to end up needing 67 of the, what is that, heterized metallic drop, heterized metallic drop, whatever the heck this thing is. You're going to need 67 of these bad boys. Now, as far as the weekly boss material is concerned, she is a new patch 1.1 character, and there's only one new weekly boss added in patch 1.1. and that is Jue. So we're going to need to farm out these Sentinel Daggers, and we're going to need 26 total. of the Sentinel daggers to get her all the way to 90, but you're not going to need that many if you're only going to be at level 80. If you're only going to be at level 80, you're only going to end up needing 6 of these Sentinel daggers to get you to level 80's fully ascended tree. But again, you're going to need a lot more if you're going to be going all the way up to 90. All right, now let's take a look at these rings again, because you are going to need these rings again in order to level up her skill tree. So for these crude rings, you're going to need 25 of those bad boys, and you're going to end up needing 28 of the basic rings, and you're going to end up needing these improved rings. You'll need 40 of those. And for this last item here, you'll need 57 of these tailored rings. But again, that's all the way up to level 90. You'll need a lot less if you're going to be at a lower level. But most people are probably going to be at level 80 when she ends up releasing, because by the time that happens, most people, if they've been playing since day one, should be at level 80. So you are going to need to farm out most of them. Now, I'll be doing a dedicated build guide for Changli, but let's go ahead and take a look at some of her weapons and echoes we could just get prepared for, right? So obviously she's going to be releasing with a signature weapon, and that's going to be this weapon right here. This is going to end up giving her 587 attack and 36.4% attack on top of that. Now, the passive could end up changing before she releases. However, it didn't end up changing with JINHSI, so I don't see why it would with Changli. So it increases the crit rate by 16% at level 90, and upon dealing damage, it increases Searing Feather by 1 stack, gaining 1 stack every 0.5 seconds. When Resonance skill is released, it increases Searing Feather by an extra 5 stacks. Each stack of Searing Feather increases Resonance skill damage bonus by 8%, stacking up to 14 times. After reaching 14 stacks of Searing Feather, all stacks will reset within 10 seconds. Now, I know that all sounds like main DPS type of stuff, but just be aware she is technically a sub-DPS type of character, so just be aware of that this weapon is going to be darn solid, but it might not necessarily be like a pickup that everybody should get if they aren't running her, for example, because a lot of us like to see crit value on those main stats, and the only crit value we actually get is from her passive. Now, it is a very substantial amount for a passive, but I just wanted to point that out to you guys. It's a very, very solid weapon, but you're going to rely on some echo substats in order to make up for the lack of crit value on the weapon itself. Now, obviously, not everybody can get Changli's signature weapon, but you have a really, really great alternative that quite literally every player has access to. It's known as the Emerald of Genesis. This is the 5-star weapon off of the standard banner, and you can use your level 45 weapon box on it. And you probably should, because this is the most common type of weapon to see in the game. Sword characters are the most common characters in the game right now. Characters like Havoc Rover can use this, Denjin can use this, Changli can use this, and it has a very solid attack stat, it has a very solid crit rate stat, and it has some solid energy regeneration as well, and the passive ability is really solid on it too, and it can basically be used on any character you can think of. That's what the standard 5 stars are basically designed to do, is to pretty much work on everybody. But this weapon in particular gives you solid crit value, energy regen, and attack. This is a very, very powerful weapon that can be used on her, whether she's a sub-DPS unit for you or more of a supportive role for you. Now, you also have access to potentially go for the Commando of Conviction, but you're going to have to get lucky on the gacha system for that more than likely. You also have the Scale Slasher and the Battle Pass weapon. We'll go over the weapons and echoes in more detail in a dedicated build guide for her, so stay tuned for that. Now, because Changli is going to end up being a sub-DPS type of character that also deals out some damage of her own, similar to Yinlin, you're going to have some different options for the echoes that you could end up putting on her. Now, her best set in most cases is going to be the Molten Rift set, and you're going to have to farm out the Inferno Rider for that set as the main echo, and obviously you can use this system right here in the Sonata Gallery in order to find the rest of the echoes that you could use. You have to run a 4-3-3-1-1 setup on her right now. There's no such thing as a 4-4-1-1-1 setup on her as of right now, unless you do a split build, but I do not recommend doing a split build. You could end up running the Lingering Tunes set on her as well. If you have a strong Lingering Tunes set, you could basically cycle the set around basically any damage-dealing character right now, because all the damage-dealing characters except for Yan Wu could use this set because they all scale off of attack. So this is definitely an option you can use as well, but again, Molten Rift is her better set. You could also run the Moonlit Cloud set on her if she's going to fit more of a supportive role on your team. Let's say you're doing something like a quick swap team or a hot swap team. This is the type of set you're going to want to run on her because of the ability that the Moonlit Cloud set actually has for that. But I would recommend going with the Molten Rift set in most cases, unless you specifically are going for a hot swap set, then of course Moonlit Clouds is an option. So we're going to be going over her weapons and her echoes and her teams in a dedicated build guide video for her. That way this video doesn't get too bogged down with too much information and the video turns into like a 30-40 minute video. So stay tuned for that video, and if this was helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form to you, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.